A unique operation to rescue a wounded Ukrainian infantryman who held the line alone for 5 days. Mutiny in the Russian army, soldiers complain about heavy losses and refuse to go into battle. A unique special operation by Ukrainian forces in the Kharkiv region. Panic in the Kremlin. SBU drones attacked a very important Russian factory in Penza. A secret room was found in the FBI headquarters in the US, along with thousands of documents proving Trump's ties to Russia. Panic in Crimea, a surge in demand for Ukrainian passports. And a nuclear strike on the USA. Medvedev threatens Trump with an apocalypse. Hello, my name is Yulia Kokhan, and right now here are the top stories. But first, please like this video if you support Ukraine and subscribe to our channel so we don't lose touch with you on YouTube. A unique operation to rescue a wounded Ukrainian infantryman who single-handedly held a 360-degree defense for 5 days. His comrades deliver a heavy 40-kilogram electric bike using a drone. And they drop it right onto his position so the soldier can evacuate. Unique footage has been shown online. From the 4th Battalion Power of Freedom of the National Guard Brigade Rubej, well, what can I say? Every time I never cease to be amazed. Write words of support for our defenders in the comments. They are doing the incredible. This is real madness. Listen closely. The Russian propaganda media outlet RIA Novosti published an article by Kirill Strelnikov titled, "There is no other option. No one in Ukraine should be left alive," which contains calls for the killing of the Ukrainian population. Strelnikov claims that Ukrainians are supposedly happy with their fate and ready to die just because Americans and Europeans have called them the best army in the world.
In reality, the only fate awaiting Ukrainian soldiers is that of lab rats, mercilessly killed for experiments.
The journalist repeats propagandist claims about Western masters waging war through Ukrainians, as well as the notion that Ukraine has supposedly turned into a military testing ground. He attacks Western analysts who acknowledge the successes of the Ukrainian armed forces. In particular, he mentions the analytical conclusions of the Atlantic Council, the Center for Strategic and International Studies, and US and UK generals, calling them panegyrics.
If we were to shift into a parallel reality and take all this at face value, it would be perfectly logical to assume that all Western military academies should already be offering courses on this subject. How brilliantly the Ukrainian army fights and wins.
Well, what can I say? Russia has hit rock bottom once again. The Kremlin, through its controlled media, is now almost openly calling for the complete genocide of the Ukrainian people. I really hope that this article will be seen and read in Europe and America. But the Russian Ministry of Defense definitely won't report the following news. Specifically, they won't tell you how many Russian soldiers are dying. And most of the time, the numbers are just made up. But the occupiers themselves are sharing this information. Soldiers from the 38th Separate Motorized Rifle Brigade complain that out of the entire unit, only about 500 are still alive, when the standard strength is 3,500 to 4,000. The Russian soldiers describe the situation as critical and say they don't want to fight in a senseless assault just for someone's stripes.
An assault just for someone's stripes. 3rd Assault Company, 38th Motorized Rifle Brigade. Half of their platoon, as I already wrote to you, is either 300 or 200. That's half of them. Here are the ones who are left. They've pulled back and are digging their own graves. Some can't carry out this offensive due to moral or psychological reasons, others because of their health. So that's the kind of news from the front line. Our command is making irrational decisions, sending us to certain death. And now the guys are literally digging their own graves. Please, help us make sense of all this. I just don't want to take part in such a senseless assault in the forest. I came here to defend our homeland. Not just to go out there so some captain can get promoted to major. It just feels wrong, you know.
What's with your face? What do you mean you feel bad? On the contrary, you should be happy. After all, you keep saying everywhere that you're dying for your homeland. Well, that's it, just as Putin ordered. Another massive strike on Kyiv during the night of July 31st. Russia attacked the capital with drones and missiles. The Russians launched more than 300 drones and 8 missiles at Ukraine. There were direct hits from 5 missiles, one of them struck a residential building in Kyiv. And 21 attack UAVs hit 12 locations, as well as debris falling in 19 locations. Almost all of them in the capital. As of now, 132 people are known to have been injured in the capital, including 12 children. 30 of the wounded are in hospital, while another 97 people received medical assistance. On an outpatient basis, the number of victims remains unchanged. 8 people have died. Among the dead is a 6-year-old boy. And this is simply a unique story. This girl was lucky to survive during the attack on Kyiv. She was thrown from the 9th floor of her building and miraculously survived. Veronica got away with only a broken leg and a chipped tooth.
She just fell from the 9th floor. Her leg is broken and her tooth fell out. I was conscious. I was just drowsy. I didn't understand what was happening. I heard an explosion and a second later I was on the ground. I don't know how you could fall 9 floors and end up with just a broken leg. Most likely I was sitting on the bed. And most likely I fell together with it. And that's probably why I wasn't hurt, because it was soft. I don't know what's happened to my mom, to my dad, where they are or how they are.
Megan Mobbs, daughter of the U.S. President's Special Representative for Ukraine, Captain Kellogg, commented on yet another massive Russian attack on Kyiv, noting that, in this way, Kremlin leader Vladimir Putin is testing America's resolve and strength.
Kyiv is under a massive drone attack. Make no mistake, this is Putin's response to President Trump's deadline. He is testing America's resolve and strength. We must not end up helpless.
Let me remind you that U.S. President Donald Trump announced that the new deadline he set for Russia to cease military actions against Ukraine is 10 days starting from Tuesday, July 29th. Ukraine responded to Russia. The Center for Countering Disinformation reported that Salsk in Russia was hit. In the Rostov region, where a logistics hub is located for transferring resources, fuel, ammunition, and other cargo. To the front in the Donetsk region, as well as south to the occupied Crimea and Zaporizhzhia region.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine Today. Join us now.
In addition, an SBU drone attacked a Russian factory in Penza. On the morning of Thursday, July 31st, 11 explosions were heard in Penza. SBU strike drones attacked an electronics factory there, which operates for the military-industrial complex of the aggressor country and is part of the Rostec Corporation. Media reports say that a large fire broke out on the territory of this military facility belonging to the Russians. According to preliminary information, Ukrainian drones hit warehouses with components and a new production building at the factory. This enterprise produces combat control systems for artillery, air defense systems, and communication equipment. It is under sanctions from the EU, the US, and other countries. There it goes flying.
There
it goes flying.
Oh my gosh.
Russia must feel every day what war is like. The occupiers managed to advance in the Zaporizhzhia and Donetsk directions. Meanwhile, the Skala regiment is successfully eliminating Russian soldiers in the Kharkiv region. More on these and other events from the fields of the Russian-Ukrainian war in our report.
The fighters of the Skala Regiment carried out a successful assault operation near the village of Milov in the Kharkiv region. Ukrainian infantry units conducting a sweep of the area were actively supported by drones. With the help of drones, about 10 occupiers were eliminated, who didn't even realize they were being hunted. And this footage of Special Operations Forces at work in the northern Slobozansky direction. As a result of the operation, Ukrainian fighters eliminated 7 Russian soldiers. As a result, only 1 Ukrainian soldier was wounded. Russian public channels are complaining that the Ukrainian armed forces are achieving significant success in the Sumy direction, and something needs to be done about it.
In the Kursk region, the Ukrainian armed forces keep pushing deeper into our territory from Novi Put. Yesterday, they covered more than half the distance to Obukovka, but we didn't let them gain a foothold. In the Sumy region, our Marines crossed the border and approached Novokonstantinovka. At the same time, the Ukrainian armed forces counterattacked near Andreevka, and they are still holding the territory north of the village that was captured during last week's attack.
The situation is much more alarming in the Donetsk region near Pokrovsk. Reuters reports that Russian forces have broken through Pokrovsk's defenses and entered the city for the first time.
For several months, Ukraine has destroyed thousands of Russian soldiers in the area around the frontline city of Pokrovsk, using small drones equipped with bombs to tie down numerically superior forces. However, now Russian troops are gradually advancing in their summer offensive, during which the weak points in Ukraine's defenses were studied. And last week, some Russian soldiers entered the city for the first time.
Ukrainian military warn of the risk of encirclement near Pokrovsk and Murnorad. Over the past 3 months, the Russian salient along the Pokrovsk-Kostiantynivka highway has stretched more than 10 kilometers, and now it forms the eastern pincer to encircle 2 important cities at once, Pokrovsk and Murnorad. At least 3 brigades are known to be at.
This situation inherently carries a substantial and significant potential for various forms of risk. Of being trapped in a difficult and challenging situation. Currently, Russia's primary and most significant strategic priority is undeniably focused on the Donetsk region, a key area of intense conflict and military operations. The enemy is active in the Pokrovsk area. They are trying to gain a foothold in the territory of Dnipropetrovsk region. The goal is clear. This is a military propaganda objective, or perhaps more accurately, an informational propaganda objective. That is to show that Russia is advancing, that Russian aggression is spreading to yet another region.
According to the analytical project Deep State, the occupying forces have also made minor advances not only in the Donetsk region. Russia has advanced near Timirivka, on the border of the Dnipropetrovsk region. There has been recorded movement of Russian forces near the village of Malivka, and often such advances turn out to be propaganda moves. Deep State analysts note that Russian soldiers are being promised paid leave if they take a photo with the Russian flag behind Ukrainian lines.
In most cases, these are simply PR stunts. This is confirmed both by the testimonies of prisoners and by intercepted radio communications. The soldiers are promised paid leave if they manage to go unnoticed, to enter a certain settlement and raise the flag of Pitstan. For example, this was the case with Malievka in the Dnipropetrovsk region. The task was set as infiltrating past the defense forces' positions while wearing cloaks. Then enter the village and raise the flag. After that, pull back and go on leave.
In most such cases, Russian soldiers do not get their leave and die a pointless death. Meanwhile, official media report on the occupation of yet another settlement on credit.
In Crimea, demand for Ukrainian documents is growing. Amid war and limited opportunities to travel to territory controlled by Kyiv, Crimeans are increasingly turning to intermediaries to obtain and renew Ukrainian documents. What does this trend indicate, and how are the occupation authorities trying to counter it? We'll tell you more next.
Recently, demand for Ukrainian documents has sharply increased in occupied Crimea. The reasons cited for this are the war and restrictions on travel to territory controlled by Ukraine. One Crimean human rights activist, speaking anonymously, says that these services are not cheap. However, many Crimeans are forced to use them because it is impossible to personally apply to Ukrainian government institutions.
Russia, regardless of the strikes on these military facilities that we are talking about, and not everything is always reported for certain reasons, they are trying to find those people who are helping the defense forces. And so, in particular, returning to the defense forces, we understand perfectly well that all components of the defense forces are involved in resolving the Crimean issue, plus the underground movement and the partisan movement.
Right now, bulletin boards in Crimea are filled with ads offering services such as marriage, birth, or death registration, issuing Ukrainian tax identification numbers, and delivering documents to or from Ukraine. However, the main thing in this matter is not to fall victim to scammers or Russian security service agents.
What should a local resident do, or how should they assess the situation, especially if they were a citizen before the illegal occupation in 2014 of Ukraine? Well, first of all, I think many people could praise themselves and say it's a good thing we didn't throw away our passports, because in one way or another, the current situation today strongly suggests that certain significant issues will inevitably arise, including those that will emerge after the complete liberation of Ukrainian Crimea, or indeed issues that presently require appropriate and timely decisions from our governmental authorities. I'm talking about this, for example, about the justice system as a structure, as a direction. So for many residents of Crimea, these issues need to be resolved on the territory of Ukraine, because as of today, Russian legislation is accordingly trying to impose itself on Crimea.
Experts note that the widespread interest in obtaining Ukrainian documents, as well as other events on the peninsula, indicate the persistence of a strong pro-Ukrainian orientation among the residents of the peninsula.
Take a look at any monitoring public page that reports on the situation in Crimea, and you'll see that throughout the day, especially in the evening and at night, there are a lot of discussions about what's happening there. And it's clear that this is connected both to actions aimed at the demilitarization of Ukrainian Crimea on the territory of Crimea itself, and to the fulfillment of combat missions by defense forces on the territory of the Russian Federation, in particular in the Rostov region, Krasnodar Krai, or Stavropol Krai.
Ukrainian intelligence officers carried out an extremely successful operation during which they managed to obtain data from Russian document management systems. Over the course of 2 days, 100 terabytes of data were downloaded, including documentation, among which were documents marked as classified. Secret about Russian military facilities and logical supply routes for Russian troops on the peninsula. After copying the valuable information, cyber specialists from the Defense Intelligence of Ukraine destroyed all the data stored on the servers of regional and district government institutions, ministries and agencies of the Russian authorities in Crimea.
Military operations are currently ongoing in the region of Crimea, which are being carried out in carefully planned stages and about which very few people are truly aware, naturally, because this is highly sensitive combat work. These crucial operations are specifically intended to make our beloved Crimea significantly safer and considerably less militarized than it is at the present day.
Despite the unhealthy attitude of the occupying authorities toward people who support Ukraine, Crimeans even tried to travel abroad using Ukrainian passports, which highlights their unwillingness to associate themselves with Russia in any way.
Meanwhile, in the United States, a secret room has been discovered at the headquarters in Barrie. Thousands of documents marked as classified. Classified documents about the investigation into Trump and Russia ties were found in incineration bags. This was reported by Fox News, citing sources. Interestingly, this room was discovered by FBI Director Kash Patel. It is reported that among these documents was a secret appendix to the report by former Special Counsel John Durham, containing intelligence that the prosecutor had examined.
Patel and his staff are working through the documents, some of which pertain to sensitive investigations. In particular, the initial FBI investigation into the Trump-Russia connection, known within the Bureau as Crossfire Hurricane.
According to a source cited by the publication, inside were documents marked secret and above, as well as hard drives that had never before been seen, even in the U.S. Congress. Among the findings was the secret appendix to Special Counsel Durham's report from 2016. And all the files were already scheduled for destruction because, as mentioned earlier, they were in bags meant for burning classified materials. Patel handed the data over to the Senate. Everything is being prepared for declassification. Well, we'll wait for more details. What do you think? Will they find anything about a massive collusion with Russia? Share your opinions in the comments. I'll definitely read them after the broadcast. Trump himself has not commented on this yet. He's busy with something else right now. The US president has started imposing tariffs on countries buying Russian oil, not waiting for August 8th, when the deadline of his latest ultimatum expires. And the first was India. Although the 25% tariff is most likely the result of trade negotiations with that country, among other things, Trump is promising penalties for India starting as early as August 4th.
Besides, they've always been buying. The vast majority of their military equipment comes from Russia, and they are the largest buyer of Russian energy, along with Captain. At a time when everyone wants Russia to stop the killings in Ukraine, all of this is not good. That's why India will have to pay a 25% tariff.
Also, Trump has slapped them with a fine for all of the above as well. Well, what can I say? That's powerful, interesting. How long will it last? Trump got into a public spat with Dmitry Medvedev. The American leader responded to threats from the deputy chairman of Russia's Security Council to start a war against the US. This happened after Trump shortened the ultimatum deadline for the Kremlin.
Tell Medvedev, the failed former president of Russia who still thinks he's president, to watch his words.
Trump also stated that he doesn't care what India does with Russia.
Let them drag their dead economies down together. To the bottom, I don't care. We did very little business with India. Their tariffs are too high, some of the highest in the world. Russia and the US also have almost no business together. Let it stay that way.
After that, Medvedev spoke and, what do you think, threatened Trump with a nuclear strike on the US.
If some words from the former president of Russia provoke such a nervous reaction from such a formidable US president, it means Russia is right about everything and will continue on its own path. And as for the dead economies of India and Russia and stepping into dangerous territory, well, let him remember his favorite movies about the Walking Dead, as well as how dangerous a non-existent dead hand can be.
I hope Donald Trump has finally understood what Russia is like after interacting with its inadequate but very typical representative, someone like Medvedev. Please like this video to support what we do, and be sure to subscribe to our channel Ukraine Today so you don't miss future episodes. See you next time.